A very warm welcome to Eye on the Money, the television show that gives you insights into how to improve your financial well-being as well as make your money work for you. I'm Ingrid Nantege, and today on the show we discuss the future of work. Now, according to the Kenya National Economic Survey report of 2019, the value of the ICT sector expanded by 12.9% from 345.6 billion in 2017 to 390.2 billion in 2018, driven by the growth in the digital economy. Now, the digital revolution has spurred the development of a small but rapidly growing digital sector with innovative entrepreneurs launching new digitally enabled services while creating 21st century jobs. Now, more significantly, digital technologies are gradually driving productivity gains in traditional industries through value addition in business processes. Disruptive technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, robotics, blockchain, drones, Internet of Things, big data, and software-enabled industrial platforms have great potential for impact on economic development. The world of work is shifting, and globalization and technology are changing everyone's understanding of what exactly work is and how it should be done. Businesses are also having to continually adapt to meet the demands of the future. Against all these realities, Eco Kenya, a cloud-based Pan-African ICT service provider, is now delivering value in creative and transformative ways with a focus on enabling partnerships with clients, which usually include SMEs, corporates, and multinational enterprises. Through these partnerships, Eco Kenya usually helps its clients seize new opportunities through the selection and implementation of the relevant technology to optimize their workforces and other resources in the ever-changing world of work. Now, joining me on the show today to discuss the future of work is none other than Ken Munyi, Eco Kenya Managing Director. You're very welcome to the show, Ken.
Asante sana. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you to talk about the future of work.
Yes.
But even as we get into, the whole topic of the future of work, for someone who's coming across this concept for the first time, they're like, the future of work, what exactly does this mean? Like, how far into the future of work are we talking about? Just help us demystify this whole concept of the future of work.
Good, thank you, and thank you for having me this evening. So the work context has been changing. Oftentimes we like to imagine perhaps that there wasn't a world before COVID, and we have kind of been thinking about the new now, influenced by COVID. But actually, the world of work has been changing because of the demographics that have been shifting. We now have a much younger, working population. We've also got a much better gender representation in the place of work. Work has changed from the issue of where work is done, right? Right now, people move around with their work. You go to a coffee shop and you find people working, very different from how we knew work, right? I mean, previously, work was, in a sense, tethered around a location. You needed to be in an office at a certain hour, 8 to 5, doing your work, and that was work. But work has changed. Work is being done on dinner tables. Work is being done even in bedrooms. Work is being done on, people's houses and all over the place. So that aspect, therefore, is that we see a lot of change affecting the world of work. And it is a continuing change. Was there before COVID, is going to continue. And we are very keen, therefore, to really assist our partners and customers be able to respond to those changes in the place of work. Yes.
Beautifully put, Ken. And you also mentioned the aspect of the fact that with this shift to the way different things are being done, yes, working from home, no much more emphasis on physical locations. And a lot of times when people talk about the future of work, or even like the changes in how work is being done, there's a heavy focus and emphasis on the digital push, or how so much is taking place on now digital platforms. My question then is, and still in relation to the future of work,
yes,
are we going to see a situation where maybe already big companies that are existing and thriving with that, they've existed for years, and we know what some of these companies are.
Yeah.
They've had models that have been tried and tested, and they've always worked. And yet here you are, Ken, telling me the future of work is going to be different. There's a lot of people going to go to the digital device. So what happens to people who are comfortable? They're like, no, it's happening for me. I don't need to do too much. is this going to be a shift which everyone is going to have to adapt? Or if I'm in an industry or an organization where things are working, will it continue working for me? Is it going to have to be communal adoption? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, that's an interesting question. You know why?
Why?
Because until a year ago, many of us really thought stuff can't change, isn't it? I mean, the way we did work, the way we even socialized, the way we lived our lives couldn't change. I mean, we kind of had figured it out and things were moving on okay. But in the last 1 year, if there's something that we've all learned, is that everything can change. The way we relate, the way we socialize, the way we even educate our children, the way we do our health, the way we work, changes. So I think for anyone who then says, you know, I've figured it out, you know, it's all working for me, I don't need to change, I think that is a very, would I say, self-deceiving, you know, thought. Why? Because change, as we are reminded often, is the only constant. So we really would want to, you know, encourage such a person to be awake to the reality that change is happening, and to almost align themselves and just really look at the environment and see how that change is happening, so that they're better prepared for it, and, you know, be able to adapt a lot better for it, you know, rather than assume it's all okay, you know, be at ease, almost sometimes even resist that change, and then suddenly change hits you so hard that you're disoriented. So change is going to happen. It's already happening. And I think for every person, it's fair for them to really attune themselves to the fact that everything can change and will change.
I mean, now it's inevitable. You've just said it yourself. Either you pretend you're blind to it and just get caught off guard, or you just embrace yourself for it. In line with what you've said, and as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, who you're talking to about the future of work, and even with the realities that we're going to face going forward, what would you be your counsel? What would be your advice in terms of preparation? What should be in place so that when this finally happens, like you've said, I'm attuned with what's going on?
So I think what's critical really, one is to be awake to the reality of what's happening. Awake to your environment, internal environment, awake to the external environment. So when you look at, for instance, your different stakeholders, and I look at perhaps your workforce, your customers, right? You need to be very kind of alert to what is changing in their world, right? Because any business that you know, loses sight of what is happening within its customer base is really a business on a deathbed, right? So one of the critical things is to be clear, who are my customers and what is changing within their world? And then the other thing, of course, is that every business is really driven by people.
Right.
The people that it attracts, the people that it engages. And the question, therefore, for any, you know, business leader, owner, is to also ask yourself, within your people, within your working population, what is changing, right? And how do you then adopt yourself to that change? And then, you know, the other thing is the other aspects around about that whole environment. So it's not just about customers and your staff. It's regulation, right? It is the context of our social world. It is a context of the globalization. I mean, there's all these many aspects that are affecting the world that we live in. And I think one has to then be awake to those realities, look at what is happening, and just like we say, if you're a farmer, you want to, you know, look and see how the clouds are shaping, so as to tell that it might rain or not, and be better prepared for it. So you've got to look at your environment, both externally and internally, and then be able to prepare, you know, for what is coming.
And I know Eco Kenya has really been at the forefront of just like doing a lot in this space, and this this is now a conversation I would like us to get into. But before we even delve into that, I would like us, like you've said, there's so many aspects that come with the future of work. There's so much talk about robotics. I mean, we're digital, right? Artificial intelligence. And with that, there's also comes, I mean, because we're trying to create convenience where the customer is still served, but without going through so much that we're going through in the past. So again, I bring it back to AI and robotics. What's the place of the employee in this? And also as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, how do you then also factor in those aspects that there's actually going to come technology that could really make things so much easier? Where does this leave the employee, and how does this fit into the mindset of the business owner?
Interesting. So oftentimes we are accused of being very techno. So AI, artificial intelligence, we've got stuff like machine learning.
Right.
we got the robotics, you know. I mean, it's an interesting world. So one of the things I'd like to say is that we live in a very exciting age, right? That there are so many tools that are available, right, for the business leader, but also for the employee, for the employer to utilize. The critical thing, and one of the things we've been saying, a friend of mine says that we try to avoid having a technology conversation. You know why?
Why?
Because oftentimes we get trapped into technology for technology's sake. So we come back to asking ourselves, there are all these different possibilities. Artificial intelligence is possible, and that is now available. Machine learning is possible, and that's now available. Robotics is possible, and that's now available. I mean, we can talk about, blockchain
Right.
technology. Ultimately, every person you have to ask yourself, what are my objectives? What problems am I solving? What challenge do I need to address? Okay, so we, in a sense, place the objective ahead of
Right.
the technology conversation. Why? Because all these things are enablers. They are tools that we can leverage and be able to utilize to solve certain identified problem. The moment technology becomes an end in itself, I think we lose it. Because then we begin to buy technology for technology's sake, engage in technology conversations for their own sake. But ultimately, we are human beings. You're a human being, you're a social being, and there's a context around about
Absolutely.
that. If you are an employer, you are in business, you have a customer, there are needs you need to address, there are challenges you need to respond to. And business such as ourselves now, right, come in, have conversations with you and say, these are all the different possibilities, but this is not important. The
Right,
critical thing is that what do you want to achieve? Where are you going? Where are you coming from, right?
Absolutely.
And how do we then bring all these different technology tools to propel you to where you need to go?
I've never had it put the way you've just put it right now. And I believe at this point, before even confusing people much further, let's take a very quick break. But don't go anywhere. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation by sending your feedback to our social media handles at Metropol TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll be right back.